So Blizzard just put out additional changes and feedback related to the pretty heavily negative feedback on the Mythic Plus affixes coming up. And man, let's just go through them. All right, let's just go through them. Let's not waste any time. Making a number of changes for our next round of player testing feedback. Afflicted now has less health and more consistent spawn behavior. Afflicted is the mob that spawns that you either need to dispel all of its afflictions or heal it to max health for it to disappear. It's basically a big healer affix. It says the afflicted affix is meant to incentivize a greater focus on dispel utility. While cool, I play warrior, and guess what? We don't have dispel utility. We don't. We have nothing that dispels anything on a mob. So unless that spawns and gives us a debuff and we get to use bitter immunity every like 2 minutes to get rid of some poison or whatever the fuck, it's gonna be, hey, guess what? Bring more shadow priests, bring more paladins, bring more shamans, which is gonna be really annoying. I don't know. Afflicted's kind of okay, but as someone who doesn't necessarily play classes that have specifically like, I don't have a D in Rage for Raging Weeks. I don't have, if Afflicted comes into play, I don't have a Dispel for that Afflicted bonus. It's just it's just another notch in the group that's going to make it even harder for classes that don't have that kind of utility, especially that utility at a regular basis. So I'm more of a fan of, it's either something that's more of a healer affix kind of thing, or it's something that doesn't require a specific class to deal with, in terms of how affixes should be designed in general. Not that every affix should be a healer affix, but something like this, where, let's say it has a magic, a poison, and a, I don't know, like a curse. I don't know, a positive curse, but like, just to get rid of them, like, there's classes that can't just do shit to them, which makes that week worse for every other class. And I don't think affixes should have that level of importance on class distribution, because I think that shit sucks. Let someone who's good at a class play it and be able to do well with it, and not throw this kind of gimmicky shit into it. Although we'd need to see, furthermore, how they're going to keep adjusting it before we decide to go full doomer on it. Because right now, I'm still in a state of, fuck it, go back, just remove the seasonal fix and leave the fixes we have. Because currently, I'm not liking these. So now, Incorporeal is now immune to damage. It had a 99% damage reduction modifier on it previously, and has more consistent spawn behavior. Incorporeal affix plays a similar role to Afflicted, but with emphasis on crowd control utility. A few things we're hoping to smooth out include both the rate of the spawns and the ease of which crowd control will be accidentally broken when applied. They're discussing a change to incorporeal beings that will cause them to fade away when combat with non-incorporeal beings has ended. Yeah, cool, but guess what? When you're doing larger polls, and most of your CC needs to go into the flame, like if we're talking Ruby Life Pool, you go into the flame dances, cinder bolts, damage reductions for the Infernos, any sort of casting you need to kick, like if you're pulling the Earth Shapers down below, you need to stun the Tectonic Slams, shit like that. One of the biggest issues with Incorporeal is that AoE CC was not affecting them. Intimidating Shout, Incapacitating Roar, I don't think Leg Sweep was hitting, like, Blinding Light, like these AoE stops that you would normally use for larger packs of mobs before going through your single target util, or even using your single target util and then using those. It doesn't address that at all. Even if it spawns, even if you pull like 3 packs, right? You pull 3 packs and this thing spawns 2, not even 1, or like even 1, but like 2. Unless you like can hit it once and it just dies, like you kick the cast and it just goes away. There's you putting your util into an affix instead of being able to put your util into the dungeon mob hampers the design they can use for dungeons, because it means that they can't design packs around needing more utility. Some need more, some need less. Like, let's say you do a big pack and it has a couple kicks you need, some stuns. Okay, then you do a smaller pack to wait for the CDs to come back. Then you go do the other big pack. Kind of like in Naku, where you go do Waterfall. Then if you needed CDs for the next, you do Waterfall. Then you go back to the main 3-pack, and then you could go to the other 2 around the Lightning Elemental. So all of your CCs are up and ready to go for the next bigger pack with multiple kicks needed. But imagine you're doing those packs with those guys permacasting Storm Bolts. And now you have to not use an AoE stop, but you have to single target CC or even just using a kick on an extra 1 or even 2 mobs. Even just 2 is too much. So it's going to completely disrupt how you're able to do packs. And it's going to be something that, if they even decide to keep it, will actually limit, or should limit, the dungeon design in terms of what mobs can even do. Otherwise, some dungeons would just literally be impossible at certain key levels, because you literally will not have enough kicks within enough time of a pull. And if you pull too small, you just won't clear it in time. I am not a fan of that. Even if, let's say, a successful kick on one of these things, like let's say it was a kick, right? But a successful kick on one of these things gave you your kick back. You know? It's like, okay, you're doing it correctly, but it's not hindering how your CC is working inside the mob pack already, right? So you're doing it correctly, but it's not hindering dungeon design. It's not hindering mob design. You can still kick the shit you need to. You just have to mouse over or focus macro or whatever. Just bop, bop, and then kick the shit you need. So right now, I'm still not a very big fan of how it's designed. I still think it definitely needs a lot of improvements. Now, explosive either needs to be something that you hit once and it goes away, or I don't know. Why did they get rid of explosive? Bring back fucking Grievous, dude. Fuck it. Bring back Grievous, bring back Volcanic. Just fuck explosive at this point. This affix is stupid. They can't seem to get it the way they want it. They can't seem to get it right. So here's what they did. We've heard the feedback that both the explosive and their new form have too much health, and that in general it makes sense to try and ignore them, thus making them a healer problem in a different way than it was before. We're discussing a redesign for the explosive affix that shift responsibility away from the healers. The proposed change would cause explosives to instead shield creatures for a percentage of the explosive's remaining health when the cast completes. Now, there's a couple things that could happen with this. How will the buff be treated? Let's say the mob gets the buff. How is it treated when they get that explosive shield? Can it be mass dispelled? Well, Shadow Priest, guaranteed every single week. Again, already do it for bursting, might as well do it for this too. Is it a enrage? Do you need will it be considered an enrage? So evokers can just get rid of it? Is this thing going to be dispellable at all? Or what? Are you going to be able to cleave off of them? You really want a group to turn and do like 800,000 damage with the 2 explosive orbs that spawn per pack. 800k into an explosive orb just so it doesn't give the pack you're trying to kill an addition. Let's say you're killing a pack of 5 mobs, right? Each explosive is 400k. That's 2 million extra health per pack if you don't hit the explosive. That's so boring, man. That shit sucks. Why? This is bad, dude. You know what this does? It just slows down the dungeon even more. Slows it down. Put damage away. Put all your damage away from the mobs. Put all your damage on something that cannot be cleaved or cannot cleave in and of itself. Oh, I think it sucks, man. I really think you just need to get rid of explosive. Entangling, honestly, is not that bad. It just needs... I mean, what's going to happen is people are just going to have a weak aura for it that says when they're entangled, but right now it's not really prominent enough. That's it. We're looking into visual clarity and audio cues for the entangling fix. Keeping an eye on the potency of the snare and require response on players to successfully snap the volume with movement. This affix isn't like the worst thing in the world, but it is dreadful for tanks. And it becomes very impactful with how you pull and how you're kiting mobs, because let's say you're ready to, you have your CDs, you can plant for a little bit, you can set up, you can do a big damage. Like what this will do is, let's say you're Warlock setting up a bunch of Rain of Fires or some shit, right? On this pack. No. Oh, tank got entangling. Pull it right the fuck out. 10 yards. Pull it right the fuck out of that shit. So I don't know. It's possible that Prot Warrior is already pretty damn good, and the tier set's looking decent. That maybe you just run Prot Warrior and they just leap charge back in after breaking it, and they don't move. I don't know. It's very... It's kind of whatever. Honestly, entangling feels more like what their affixes should be of the affixes more than anything else, because it is slightly impactful, but it is not the main focus. It is impactful in the dungeon, but it is not the main focus of the week. You see an entangling week and you go, okay. But you see an incorporeal week and you go, fuck. Right? You see a afflicted week, you go, fuck. You see an explosive week, you go, well, might not play this week. Because literally, you're not going to be able to push. Let's say you have a key out of 24 that's non-explosive, but a key with explosive at 24 means you spend so much time on the affix itself compared to something like entangling where you just move that... Excuse me. That you spend so much time on the affix itself compared to the dungeon that you literally can't complete the dungeon at the same key level you've already completed it, because it just wastes so much fucking time. I don't know, that shit sucks. I don't like it at all. In addition to the above, we are discussing change to the progression of keystones with item rewards increasing up to level 20. We're evaluating the levels of affixes added to keystones. Our changes would delay the affixes, so level 4s would be at level 7, and level 7s would be at level 14. Thank you again for playing with Plus on the PTR. Appreciate the feedback. Here you go. That's my feedback. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.